Okay. Welcome to the September 8th Jenkins governance meeting. Welcome everybody here. We're going ahead and get started. Actually, before we get started, is there anything anybody needs to add to the agenda to discuss today that is not on the agenda? Okay. All right. So first up, our upcoming calendar. Our next weekly release, I believe, is 2.527, which should happen tomorrow. And then our next LTS is 2.516.3. I checked the mailing list and I did not see a release lead set up for that yet. Does anybody know if that has occurred?
Isn't he Hervé Lemeur?
What's that?
Is Hervé Lemeur the release lead, or am I mistaken?
I think
I
was
looked
the
on.
case was on the mail dev list. I think I saw it somewhere. So I think yes.
Okay. I'll double check that and update the notes after. I thought I did a search on there and I couldn't see anything.
Hervé is the release lead for 2.516.3.
Okay. And that should be releasing, I believe, on September 17th, according to the calendar.
Yeah, it's the next .3 release.
Yeah. Next, we have just a quick election update in news. We do have nominations for all open positions right now. Currently, we would like to encourage more people to nominate folks and get more nominations in there. But we do have nominations for all open positions at this point. So we'll be able to have at least votes on that when that comes up. Action items. Basil had this item on here to create the attribution entries for the downloads page. Is any traction on that one? Or still in the to-do area?
Yeah, it's still on the to-do list.
Okay. Mark had a couple action items. Since he's not here, can't follow up on those unless anybody knows about the sponsorship tiers or the Jenkins DNS ownership migration from Art Tyler Croy.
I haven't had any update from him. I think there's still to do as well.
Yeah, that was my understanding as well. Okay, next community activity. We have the community plugin maintainers proposal, which has been being discussed. And Basil, I know you're working with this as well as Bruno. Either of you have any updates that you want to talk about this?
The main thing is that we've proposed the team and the people on it and sent that proposal to the Jenkins developer list. So if there's any feedback on the team members, now is the time to give it. But other than that, we're getting ready to start the project pretty soon. So if not starting it already, as soon as the team is finalized.
I think there was feedback on it from me, and then generally +1.
Cool.
Yeah, more votes would be useful.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. So I'll hop on there in +1 as well because I think it's good. Okay. Sorry, just taking some notes. Okay, so let's talk governance topics. I already did a little bit of the update on the elections. Everything's in place for the nomination process as well as registering to vote. I will be sending out another email to the users and developers lists about nominations as well as registration for voting. So that should go out this week. Any questions or anything like that about current election status? Okay. we have on here Jenkins Contributor Summit, and it says the Friday before FOSDEM. I was trying to find out when FOSDEM was. The only thing I could see was FOSDEM 2025. Apparently my searching skills are lacking. Does anybody know an actual date on when?
It hasn't been announced yet, but every year it's on the first weekend of February.
Okay.
Yeah, one thing so what I can say unofficially from the discussion on Discord, it will be 30th of January and 1st of February. So it won't be February.
Yeah, technically not really the first weekend. Yeah.
Yep. So I'm just looking at Discord.
Okay. I'm glad my search skills are not lacking as much as I thought they were. So we do have Alyssa has confirmed that we have a venue with Beta Cowork. There's a fee associated with that. This says we have a question mark after this whether we want to approve the expense from the board. Do we have a consensus on approving that expense to have that for the Contributor Summit in 2026? $250?
We've historically had very good experiences with Beta Cowork, so I see no reason not to keep holding it there.
And it's not because they changed their mind. It's because somebody was faster than us. I think it's Oracle that booked almost all the rooms. So the only one we can get is a paying one.
Okay. Did anybody not approve this expense, or can we go ahead and move forward with that?
If you talk about
we totally approve.
sorry, are we talking about February 4th?
It would be, this says the Friday before FOSDEM.
Okay.
So if it's if it's the 31st, yeah.
Because if it was February 4th, there could have been a trick, because after FOSDEM there is config management camp in Ghent, which is also highly relevant. So potentially it could have been possible to do something in Ghent instead. But if it's before, then
Yeah, I think that's what's been
Definitely.
planned is the Friday
Yeah.
before FOSDEM. So,
Okay.
So I'll mark this as yes, the expense has been approved, and make sure the Alyssa knows that, so we can go forward with that. We did use a process last year where we had kind of a list of attendees that we wanted to reimburse for some of their expenses. Mark has proposed we do a similar process, which is a spreadsheet with proposed attendees. We can go through and prioritize ones we think would do well in terms of contributions that they've made to Jenkins over the past year and so forth. And that would be from the Jenkins crowdfunding site, those reimbursements. Anybody have any issues? We brought this up, I think, in a previous meeting, but I don't know if we had enough people here to kind of get a consensus. Does everybody feel good about that process again? Okay. Okay, great. Okay, so next we have CDF membership drive in September and October. So this is being planned by the CDF governing board. So we would like to encourage companies to become CDF members. I don't know if there's any actionable items that we have from this. Does anybody have any background on this item or anything that we need to do as a board, other than encourage maybe our employers or companies we interact with in this front?
I think that's exactly it. Just grassroots. You know, if you know anyone whose company might have value to add, then definitely talk to them and encourage them.
So CDF still runs bare bones. So basically this minimum personnel supporting the foundation and the activities, and any additional membership could be helpful to actually expand the operations a bit. or to feel more secure about the infrastructure, because the infrastructure costs in all projects keep going up. There is unclear direction for Tecton at the moment, but some of Tecton expenses have been paid by the CDF recently. So having 1 or 2 foundation members definitely wouldn't hurt from the stability standpoint. Because last time when CDF had troubles, some drastic measures were needed to keep it going. So it would be better to avoid that.
Yeah, so I guess as board members, we can, as we said, encourage either our companies or ones we work with to take a look and see if it'd be beneficial for their company to back these projects and become part of the CDF Foundation. It does say here in the notes that you must be a Linux Foundation member in order to be a CDF member. So I don't know if that would stop certain companies or something from wanting to do it, but just keep that in mind. I'm sure there are documentation on the CDF website about becoming a sponsor and a member organization. So if anybody needs help finding that documentation, just send a message to the board list and we can figure out where that information is. All right, next item is the JFrog artifact storage reduction project. So we had reduced our storage, the actual storage itself, down to less than 2 terabytes. However, we still had an issue of JFrog sponsorship allows not more than 10 terabytes monthly bandwidth, and we're typically around 30 terabytes. So 3 times as much as what they would like us to be at. I know, Basil, you'd been looking at some of the logs from JFrog to kind of determine who the highest users of this were. There's some work that you were working with JFrog on getting like a robots.txt type file for the AI crawlers. Do you have any updates in this area?
Right. So I don't believe we've asked them to put the robots file in. I don't believe that it has been placed yet, but I think the ball is on the JFrog side to deploy that change. We certainly have communicated to them what the benefits are, and also that it would have benefits to them beyond the Jenkins project's Artifactory server, because they host other projects as well. We also have done some cleanup on our side to reduce usage by our own agents on ci.jenkins.io and related infrastructure controllers. So we have decreased usage. I'm not sure exactly how much it's gone down, but it's gone down a fairly significant percentage. I'm thinking around the ballpark of 20 or 30% from where we started. So we have put a big dent in usage both on our own side as well as with our suggestions to block the robots and other things. And so we've made an improvement, but we don't see a path of getting all the way down to what JFrog has requested, which is, that I forget the number now, but the very low, I think it was 10 terabytes or whatever that number was. So we don't really see a path for getting there with organic improvements. So that's sort of an ongoing conversation with JFrog. The next steps from our perspective are for JFrog to do some brownouts and to block certain IP addresses for a short amount of time, like 2 or 3 days, and to see who complains. Our hope is by doing that, we'll be able to find some of these top users and contact them and have a discussion with them about how to get their usage down. That's another area where we're waiting to hear back from JFrog about whether they're willing to implement these brownouts and what that process would look like. So we're sort of in a holding pattern right now, waiting to get guidance from JFrog about how to best move forward. But in summary, we've picked off all the low-hanging fruit, and there's no more low-hanging fruit to pick. So we've got to do some more drastic things next, and we'll have to see which direction JFrog wants to go in for those drastic steps. But we think we're pretty confident that we have a plan to move forward, and we don't seem to be in a rush to do any of this. Like, they haven't indicated to us that there's a particular urgency, so we're just waiting to hear back from them and go from there.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks for that update. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I put some references on the chat, but Sonotype has been doing brownouts and download throttling for Maven Central because over the past year or so it has been also difficult for them. And basically there is quite a good success story in terms of reducing traffic, but yeah, it still required quite a lot of time from Sonotype team, including direct outreach to offenders. Because
Yeah, we discussed this with the Sonotype people at Open Source Summit North America, and they gave us some of the backstory behind how they got to the brownouts. And one of the interesting things they told us was that they initially started with smaller durations of brownouts, such as 8 hours or so, but they found that if the brownout wasn't at least 24 to 48 hours, that it wasn't as effective. Essentially, it had to be something disruptive enough that people wouldn't just blow it off as a flaky failure or something like that. And if it was like 24 to 48 hours, that would send a clear signal that this is not going to be fixed immediately. You need to reach out. So I think that was an interesting lesson that they learned from the exercise.
Are we still in communication with those folks to see if they've done anything additional on their end?
On Sonotype side, we have their contact information, but we haven't had a reason to ask them anything.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Okay.
So yes, I can do the intro because we were working with them on some Gradle related things, because Gradle build tool has been one of the major sources for downloads due to various reasons. But yeah, I think that this story is to be driven by JFrog in any case. There is little Jenkins could do without access to analytics, contacts, and other bits that couldn't be shared, probably.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the Artifactory server is hosted by JFrog, so they need to implement any kind of brownouts or throttling or robots or anything like that, as long as they're running the server.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Thank you for that update. Appreciate it. Okay, next we have cloud expenses and plans. So currently, we had a sponsorship from Microsoft for Azure, which ended on August 31st. So we had at last meeting, we had $900 remaining in the donation. We were looking at transitioning off of that, and according to this, that transition was supposed to be completed before the funds depleted. There's an infrastructure issue on this, and it is closed out. So it looks like everything has been migrated away from that sponsorship usage. So that's great. We do have CDF funds on Azure. We have a remaining amount of $32,154 for 2025. In August, we were at $3,517, which is lower than our forecast. We forecasted at $6,500, so that was nice to come under that. Our kind of max is $6,400 monthly until the end of 2025. That's just something that the infrastructure team noted in their meeting minutes. So there's been a lot of effort in decreasing the costs on Azure, and it's been going really well. It's down about $300 since the last forecast went out. So that's a pretty good drop on that side. We also have some sponsorship from some credits from Microsoft. But those, that's the same thing as above. Sorry about that. My copy and paste missed that one. Next, we have DigitalOcean. We have $13,242.16. That's available until January 2nd, 2026. We had a slight increase due to a training virtual machine. That was expected, though. The August dollar amount was $140, but which was forecasted at $240. So it was lower than the expected forecast. So that was good. Next, we have AWS, which we have some amount from CloudBees. In August, we had forecasted $658, but it only came in at $399. There's currently a check going on as there was some increased data outbound that the infra team is looking at. So they'll look into that. We also have a sponsored account where we had $89,470 in credits, which goes until 2027. So we have about 17 months remaining on that. In August, we had $3,776 usage, but it was forecasted at $6,000. We did start seeing some issues with the EC2 plugin about over provisioning, and they're looking at fine tuning that to improve that behavior right now. Any questions on cloud expenses and
So I believe that all of the EC2 plugin changes have been released.
Oh, great.
The ones that we were working on to discard idle instances. But there's still some ongoing infrastructure problems with So we've kind of shifted a lot of the workload from Azure to AWS, as you just described. And a lot of it is using spot instances. But we've been having a lot of issues with no spot instances being available. And I think there's an ongoing question of whether we want to fall back to non-spot instances in that case, or just continue waiting until spot instances are available. So right now we're continuing to wait, which is good for the budget, but it has resulted in some builds taking a very long time waiting for these spot instances, especially for people working on US time, such as me. I'm working on US time when a lot of these spot instances are not available during peak hours. So I think so I'm working with Damien to try to figure out how can maybe we can find a balance there between preserving the budget and maybe not having to wait for 3 hours to do a build for a one-line change. So that's sort of still in progress, but I think we're on a good path, and we're definitely our current projections for the AWS budget are well within our expected range. So we don't think we're going to see a problem, at least for the next few months, with running on AWS.
Cool. Awesome. Okay. Anything else on cloud expenses? Okay. Next, we have the software and the public interest SPI funds. Currently, we did approve the donating the remainder of SPI funds to the OSG OSL. Currently, it's according to Mark's last update, it's still in progress. No issues have been flagged on that, so just waiting for that to go through. And that is the end of items on the agenda. Does anybody have anything to bring up on the recording?
Wow, thank you.
Okay,
Maybe one minor item.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Ola.
Sorry. Yep.
No, you're good.
So there is a Jenkins dev list query about having a unified account on Gradle plugin portal, because currently we have 2 GPI plugins. We also have convention plugin, and currently all of them are being published by individual accounts, which is kind of acceptable. But the problem is that the ownership transfer on a Gradle plugin portal is quite complicated in this case. So what we discussed with Rahul and Steve Hill is that we would rather prefer to have a kind of Jenkins-owned account for Gradle plugin portal, so that the keys of the kingdom belong to the Jenkins project, and basically whomever wants to publish, they just get the publishing keys for particular repositories, or they even just store the secrets. So there is developer list query. I think that technically it's a no-brainer, but it needs some input from the infrastructure team whether to proceed with it or not.
Awesome. We'll make sure that gets seen by the right people.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Damien has looked at this yet. I know that he was out of the office for a significant amount of time last week, so I'm not sure if he's gotten to this one yet, but I think the next step is for the infrastructure team in general to take a look at this.
Yeah, it's not urgent. So in our case, yeah, one of the interests is of course having some adoption for the convention plugin. That can happen even in the current state. So there is no blockers. But again, for longer term sustainability, if we talk about anything, having Gradle somewhat official, I mean, it's still a long way from here. But having unified hosting would be a good first step.
Yeah, we went through quite a bit of trouble to recover access to npm from individual accounts. So we definitely don't want to make that mistake a second time where some publishing key is tied to a personal account from someone who's no longer active in the community, because that has been a pain point in the past.
Yeah, exactly. Well, for Jenkins, we could technically host plugins from Jenkins repository. So Gradle plugin portal is not a single source of plugins for Gradle. Maybe just using Jenkins would be even better, but it means that you either make the flows compatible with JREP 2.9 or somehow go to releases Jenkins IO, which would be much higher quality standard that we have at the moment for Gradle. So yeah, maybe.
Yeah, just this morning I published a new version of incrementals to Maven Central, and one of the reasons we don't use our Artifactory for that is that it's harder to consume some of these Maven plugins when they're not in a standard repository. So, there's some precedent for using the standard X flow as much as possible for these build plugins.
Yeah, I agree. So I will
Anything else on that?
follow up. Yeah, I will follow up with Damir when he's available.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Anybody have anything else to bring up? Okay. Just as a reminder, next month, Valentin, you're on tap to lead the governance meeting. I don't remember the exact date of that.
But he's next month. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Let me stop the recording.